Welcome to the North Group podcast. At North Group, we are invited into organizations to influence leadership and organizational behavior. It is absolutely fascinating work. Today, we invite you into one of those conversations.
Hi, I'm Derek Melleby, a consultant here at North Group Consultants, and today I'm joined with three of my best friends, Gina, Kent, and Craig, experienced leaders who have a lot to say about the topic we're going to discuss today. And here's the challenging idea, or the phrase or concept that we want to explore. If you want something done well, do it yourself. If you want something done well, do it yourself. On the surface, this can sound like a call to excellence, but what happens when leaders live by this? And what might be possible when we don't? So let's dive in. This phrase, if you want something done well, do it yourself. Why do you think this phrase resonates with leaders?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, Derek, and to me, you said it's almost a call to excellence. I think it's almost a call to action. And I think it kind of it wells up in us because we've grown up with this phrase. We've heard this numerous times, and it's something that we can do as action. So it almost becomes like a workplace equivalent of just do it.
Sure.
You know, there's a task in front of me. Let me just do it. Let me just get it done. And then I don't have to worry about explaining it to somebody else. I think that's, for me, why it resonates with myself at times, and I think it resonates with other leaders I've talked to.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why it's enduring, we can all relate to it because, you know, we are people of action and there's some degree of satisfaction just by getting things done. I think with a lot of times entrepreneurs or founding business leaders, when they first started, it was only themselves. So there really wasn't anybody else to do it. So, you know, if you're going to get something done and do it well or do it right, do it yourself. I think the problem is when that continues and the organization grows, that's when it becomes potentially a challenge.
And I think too, well, get it done, then I know it's done. And in part, that's important to me because I'm not great with remembering if I ask someone else to take care of something or to handle a project or an initiative, I forget. And then I forget to follow up and check in. How's it going? And so if I just get it done, it feels easier, at least in the short term.
Yeah. And that's so true, especially early on. You can imagine a lot of the tasks that need to be done. You want to take ownership of it. You want it to be done well. But what about when we're in large organizations or working on a team? You know, where might we be tempted to live this out in ways that aren't as helpful?
I think of it, you know, when we're pressed for time or when it seems like it's just something quick and easy to take care of. You know, I know me personally, I can just lapse into, well, I'll just do it myself. And again, sometimes that's well and good. You know, other times what that really is my impatience coming through or insecurity or high control at play.
That's exactly when I get tempted to act on this phrase. Is it's not a trust issue, which we'll talk about probably a little bit later. It's more of when it compromises efficiency. And so I think it's going to take longer to allow someone else to do the task than if I just do it myself. And which isn't a lack of trust, it's just a lack of efficiency. So I just take it on myself.
And I would add one more thing to that. I think often, at least for me, it's a lack of planning on my part. So I didn't plan ahead enough. And so now all of a sudden it's, you know, whatever, the latest hour and I'm stuck. And now now I'm going to ask you to rush and hurry and do something quickly? That doesn't feel great. And so then I ended up doing it myself. But it all started with me. The other thing I would add to this too is sometimes, and this might sound a little funny, but sometimes I think we take the humility piece almost a little too far. Well, I don't want people to think like that I think I'm better, and so I'll just do it. And we forget to ask, well, but should I? Or am I even the best person? Does that make sense?
Well, it does. Yeah. I was even thinking maybe some of that comes from this idea of servant leadership, because we talk about servant leadership and the way Jesus led and a lot of that's a good thing at face value. We don't want to ask anybody else to do something that we ourselves wouldn't be willing to do. So we as leaders model behavior and set the standard, and yet that can become...
I'm thinking of an individual in the North Group team, one of our best team members at business development. Like, do I want them typing all their notes and doing all their... No, get out there, do BD. So like sometimes I think we get in our own way with this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, let's look at this phrase a little bit too. If you want something done well, do it yourself. And those are really good thoughts about why it persists and what resonates with us. But there's a caution here with this statement. And let's talk about what could get missed when we do it all ourselves, or maybe take on things to make sure that things are done well. But what's lost when leaders hold on to this too tightly?
Well, I think one of the reasons we hold on too tightly is control, right? When we're holding on, we're in control, we're driving the train. A lot of you are familiar with Craig Rochelle. He's a pastor, author, leadership speaker. And he has said you can have control or you can have growth, but you cannot have both. And I love that. So what are we losing? We're losing the opportunity to grow ourselves, our team, our organization. So I think that's something, that we can very easily lose.
I think the other piece of it is when I look back on when the greatest learnings for me has been through when I didn't succeed at something. So if I don't release something and somebody doesn't succeed at it, it's not a failure in its own right. It really does stunt the growth of that person, because that's when you do grow. I also think the other thing is it provides a shared experience with another coworker, because now you're working as a team instead of just working on your own, and that shared experience is lost.
Imagine, Craig, if we thought about that a little bit differently. Like, if I don't give you this opportunity, and I know it has some risk, like you might trip, you might fall, I'm robbing you of an opportunity.
Yeah.
And when you think about it that way, I'm like, well, I don't want to do that.
That's right.
But we fall into this trap pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think it has multiple levels. I mean, I think it could adversely affect a leader, both their health and just their well-being, if they continue to try to function and do everything.
You run out of
themselves.
daylight.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. It's just not a healthy way to live. But ultimately, eventually, it's going to hold back the organization. It's going to stunt the organization in some
you become
form
the
or
bottleneck.
fashion.
Yeah.
Right?
The leader becomes the bottleneck.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll burn out.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I was listening to somebody recently in a conversation talking about how the time to give over some control or give over some leadership is right before you think the person is maybe quite ready. I'm not sure what I think about that. What do you guys think about? How do you determine when the timing's right? Or
I can relate personally to that, Derek. I think I can think of times in my professional career where I've been given opportunities and responsibilities that I wasn't ready for.
Right.
Maybe I was in over my head, and maybe that's just what I needed. Somebody took a chance and trusted, empowering me or giving me responsibilities, maybe prematurely, arguably, but maybe that's the very thing some of us need.
I completely agree. I can identify points in time where I was like, what? And you think I can do that? Or like, you want me to do what? And then you move forward, and all of a sudden you realize, like, wait, I've accomplished the first step. This is going well. Or, and I think a game changer or a difference maker there is when you know that person has your back. So I think it's different if you put someone on an island and give them a whole lot of responsibility that maybe they're not quite ready for. But if you're there in a supportive way, but you got to stay in the background, right? Or else you haven't quite given it.
It's one thing if someone believes in you, but they have to set you up for success as well.
Yes, correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because you want to build confidence in your team. And once confidence is built, the sky's the limit for people of where they might take that confidence. And it's another reason to hand stuff over. And if they fail, they'll learn from that failure. If they succeed, they just continue to build confidence at that level.
Yeah, you asked the question, if as leaders we're trying to do everything ourselves, what are we losing? I also think we're losing the opportunity for new ideas and innovation. Because if we have our heads down and we're just getting all the things done, we're likely missing a lot of really good ideas that come from our team members, colleagues, the folks who have their boots on the ground.
Isn't it fun when you do give something up and you see someone else do it, maybe in a different way that you would have done it, and yet it comes out really well. And you say, wow, other people can do this,
Right.
and maybe even better than I can do this.
And I don't have to.
And I don't
Right?
have to.
Right?
Exactly. And it frees you up to do what other tasks or responsibilities you have.
This is going to sound hysterical, but for the longest time, I just did all the laundry, right? And one day, it was funny. It was actually a boyfriend or a girlfriend of one of my kids. I won't say who, but the person, okay, now I gave it away, came over and was like, you're doing laundry every time I'm here. And one day I was like, she's right. I'm doing laundry all the time. And so I had my kids start to do their own laundry. And why didn't I do this like 5 years ago?
Yes.
Fantastic.
And they could do it.
And if they ruin a shirt, I don't even care.
Yeah.
I just didn't have to do it anymore. So delegating, it's a beautiful thing if we can figure out how to let go.
But when do we? Okay, so here's a personal example for me when I can fall into this trap: mowing my grass, mowing my yard.
But you're one of those.
Yeah, no one else
no.
can do it well enough or right. It's just plus.
Right.
So I've overfunctioned in that way. But when is that just a convenient justification that I'm holding on to something too long? But I can convince myself that I enjoy it and that I'm good at it. But what if I would turn that over to a family member and they would actually mow it a different way that would be better?
Might even be better.
It could be. I doubt it. But it could be.
But isn't that the way it is with a lot of tasks? We want a level of perfection, but just like the grass, it'll just grow back.
That's true.
And it'll just get mowed again another day. And so many tasks are that way that we're just going to repeat it anyhow. We'll just improve it the next time. Yeah,
It's good
Yeah,
perspective.
that's very good.
And Gina, to your laundry example, so my wife went away for a few weeks, and I was trying to figure out, not that she's solely in charge of all of the cooking, but I had to figure out how to do meals. Not proud of this, but we were in McDonald's twice in less than 24 hours. That's another story. But you gave me the great idea of just saying to your kids and their teenagers, how about you take some meals, or instead of me trying to figure it out, I just handed it over to them, and my goodness,
Right.
they figured it out. They made meals. They
Healthy and delicious.
Yeah, well, but we ate. But it also just empowered them. I wouldn't even have thought of that, but just the mindset of here's a task that needs to be done, and giving them the opportunity to step up was really valuable. And when we think about this phrase, if you want something done well, do it yourself. One of the phrases that also came to mind as we were talking about this is an African proverb, an African saying. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. What do you think that means for leadership, or how this connects to what we've been talking about so far?
Yeah, I think it connects a lot because there's a short-term, long-term piece to this. If you do want to go fast, go by yourself. But leadership implies that, you're doing it with others. It's not a solo act. And if you think about anything that's been done that's great and or enduring, very rarely is that just somebody doing that on their own. So I think I like this proverb a lot, and I think it's really true.
When I was thinking of a corollary, not necessarily this proverb, but I thought of the movie Hidden Figures.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's a lot of race issues and gender issues that cause mistrust. And do we trust these human calculators, literally human calculators, to figure out how the orbit should go when John Glenn went to space? And it was John Glenn himself who said, I trust these ladies to make this decision because they are really gifted at it. And again, that's a team going further because they trusted each other. And I think it's also a lesson for us, even if you separate the race and gender piece, not to too quickly put people in boxes because of their positional status in an organization or their perceived status in an organization. To let people take something and see what happens with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand the strengths of the people that either report up to you or that you're working closely with, in part so you can leverage them. And that takes effort. Like sometimes I shouldn't often I should say, it takes effort. Sometimes it's obvious, Craig was a finance guy. He's great with numbers. That's obvious, right? But like, what else does Craig bring to the table? One of my favorite things about Craig is he can take an idea and just make it simple and easy to understand. Like, I would have to work or be around Craig enough to learn that about him. So I think too, this idea of delegation or going together, like if we're not including our team, they feel underutilized, right? They feel ignored, they feel undervalued, and eventually they'll leave, right, for another opportunity. And that's not great either. So there's definitely a couple pieces. Once you get into this idea of delegation, it goes deeper.
That's really good, because really with the younger workforce coming into play, it's a lot about career progression. And so they're wanting to grab onto things and take it and not just do the routine tasks that they're assigned every day, but to have new things to experiment with and try. And that will keep people more engaged in your organization longer.
And take you further in the long run.
Yeah, that's right.
For sure.
I hear that a lot in hiring. You know, why would you leave where you're at now?
Right.
Underutilized. I don't understand how my role matters. Or, right. I don't feel like I'm making a difference.
Right.
That's not great. Right. I wouldn't want to stay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and to Craig's point about trust, I mean, that's when someone trusts you and gives you opportunities to act on it, that's really empowering. And what gets better when trust deepens? I think that's part of the conversation here with this quote, but why is trust so important here, do you think?
When trust is built, though, we get more confident then. And so if we see success, even in small things, then I think we're more willing as leaders to turn over even more. But it does take those quick wins or that early trust to be built before you can accelerate to.
That's right. And I hear clients say, boy, I want to give it to somebody, but no one's willing to do it. And which might just show a lack of confidence that people have. And so if we can build trust, we can build confidence, there may be more people raising their hands, volunteering to do some of the other work that needs to be done.
There might be a self-awareness moment, though, for that leader, because if folks aren't willing or to pick up some task, maybe it's what the leader is projecting that maybe is even unspoken or unintended, that could make some of the team members feel like, well, I couldn't do it.
Right, or I couldn't do it good enough, right? Or I don't feel supported, or I don't think they're going to give me the tools. Like, there's a whole bunch of, reasons. Derek, this idea of trust, so this might also sound funny, but I bet we can all think of examples where we trust someone so well in their role. They're doing great. We know they've got this, almost to the point where we're like, why am I even here? Like, I could sit down and go home. They've got this. And I know that for myself, when I'm in that situation, because I'm so confident in that person, I can almost tend to ignore them, which is exactly what I would never want to do. Like, why would you ever ignore your rock star?
Right.
But it's because, like, I know you've got this. And so I'm scurrying about doing my things. And then what do? We pay attention to the people that are struggling, and we forget to spend that one-on-one time and to develop and, rise up the folks who are doing really well.
Yeah, you take them for granted.
Right. Yeah.
I know I've had to have conversations with people that I've led that because they were so good at what they did, I want to apologize ahead of time. I'm most likely going to take maybe an advantage of you or even take you for granted because you're so good
You've got this.
The kinds of things that we need.
Yeah.
But
it's the communication there that's so important, right? Like, if that's like, hey, like, reach out if you need something. I'm not ignoring you. I know you've got this. Like, but you still want to check in too. You wouldn't ever want to actually ignore the person.
Yeah.
I was actually going to go a different direction. Okay. What about leaders where they're working around highly competent people, but they're holding on to tasks because of insecurities that they might feel? That it's like, I'm going to hold on to a few things. I probably could delegate them. I probably should. But, I want to make sure I'm adding value and feeling like, I'm contributing. And that's probably a wrong motive to have. maybe that's even speaks to control as well.
Sure.
But that could creep in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
That takes a lot of self-awareness to get there, but I could see it in my own life where you you could be threatened by giving people the opportunity to outshine you.
Right.
I mean, but if you keep thinking, well, what's best for the organization, or keep what's best for the team, or what's best, and you create a culture where everybody is bought into that together, then...
And when you think about investing people, what's the old saying? Like, if we're holding on to things so tightly and we're not investing in people, like the saying is, if you are working to develop someone, but if I do that, what if they leave?
Yeah.
And the opposite is, well, but what if you don't invest in them, give them responsibility, and they stay?
They stay. That's the worst.
Well, that's not great.
Right.
You have an underdeveloped person who's, yeah.
And I think of Jim Collins, he talks about you're not a level 5 leader until you actually leave and things get better. And that one's tough on the ego because we all as leaders think we're pretty important.
Yeah.
Maybe not we wouldn't say we're indispensable, but we're pretty important. Well, how about level 5?
We're the expert.
We are.
Yeah.
Level 5 isn't level 5 until you're gone and the organization
Gets better.
gets better.
Right.
That one's a hard one.
That's tough.
So if we were to rewrite this phrase, if we rewrote this phrase to reflect healthy leadership, what might it be?
I'll go first. If you want something done well, create and empower an amazing team to do it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I'll go back to the strengths. Like, I just think it's so important to understand your strengths, get to know your people, understand their strengths, and then figure out how to leverage both. Because some of the things that you're good at, maybe you're even great at, but if someone else can do those things, then that just frees you up to do the things that only you can and should be doing.
Yeah, I was thinking just trust your team. The job's going to get done. It will get done. And there's very few things that get done to a degree that it's catastrophic. Usually it can be quickly fixed if things go awry. So just trust your team.
Yeah.
I was thinking of an example with a client. Some of it, language is important, and just moving from me language to we language is so important. And this leader was just me and I, and you would have, I don't think it was intended, but just to move to that more team-based we starts with language. Words matter.
Mm-hmm. What do you think helps leaders let go without lowering standards? If we're connecting this to excellence and wanting to do well, how do we let go?
I mean, I think that's right. That's the biggest thing, that we think everything is so important that it all has to be done perfectly. But I bet if we would all reflect on what were the most powerful moments of learning in our life, it's like the mistakes. You learn from your mistakes. So somehow in there figuring out when is it okay to let people experience at least a little bit of failure, knowing you're still there, but we just learn from mistakes. And if we don't give those opportunities.
Yeah, I agree that we have to know what standards we're talking about. And if the standard is perfection, well, we rarely achieve that, and then we give ourselves grace. But we've got to be able to give that grace to other people trying to. I heard, and I think it was actually a previous North Group podcast, where a leader said, when I think somebody can do something at 85% of the level that I can, then I need to be able to release it and let it go. And I think that's really helpful to think about. Certainly with leaders' experience and so forth, no one's going to immediately meet that standard. But if it's good enough to be 85% of that, they'll eventually get up to that standard, and it's time to release it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So clear expectations, but guys, we'd be remiss. Core values, right?
Yeah,
we need
absolutely.
to have clear core values in terms of the how we behave, how do we make decisions. Gina, core values.
Right, huge.
They have
Absolutely.
to be clear, and they can be translated or applicable to any position in the organization. Should be able to at least relate
Yeah,
to their core
absolutely
values.
correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, final thoughts here. In one sentence, what's one shift a leader could make this week to go farther with their team?
I would say test it. Give it a try. Start with something smaller, let it go, see what happens, and build off of that. That's more than a sentence, wasn't it?
Well,
I don't have a sentence either, but you mentioned the idea of setting clear expectations. Right. I think that's so important. Like, because I know times when I've messed up in this area, if I reflect back, I'm like, well, you didn't explain that well at all. Mm-hmm. So how do we start with setting clear expectations, making sure we're matching the person's strengths to the responsibility that we're giving to them, and then provide that feedback, but the feedback needs to be regular and it needs to be straightforward. You can't sugarcoat it. Of course, you want to be kind. You don't want to just be nice. So clear expectations, leverage strengths, and then provide that ongoing regular feedback.
I would simply say just before performing a task or a function, just run it through the lens of, is this the highest and best use of my time? And if it's not, as a leader, see if there's somebody on your team that can take care of it for you.
Yeah, it's good. For me, I think the self-awareness question of why is this difficult for me to let go? And do I think people could handle it? At least 85%. They could probably do even much more. But just being honest about my own, what's behind the challenge for me in that regard. Well, thank you all for the conversation. I'll leave our listeners with one question. As you lead your teams, where might you choose to trust rather than take over? Thank you for joining us today.